Hello, all. Welcome to Tacton's webinar on navigating the digital landscape, a manufacturer's guide to sales success. We are excited to have you in our webinar focused on educating manufacturers on digital sales transformation and what modern enterprise software for sales can do for you. We all know you have multiple transformation projects going on simultaneously, but today we want to make sure you're making the right investment in the right tools to drive sales growth in your organizations. So let's begin with the introduction to the presenters and the agenda for today. My name is Sriram Ramadurai, and I'll be your host and a presenter in the session. I currently lead a global product marketing team at Tacton Systems and have worked in the discrete manufacturing sector for over 20 years in various functional roles, including engineering, marketing, and digital transformation. We're also fortunate to have Frank Sohn and Steve Fauth join us on the call to share their insights. Frank is the president and CEO of Novus CPQ Consulting and a configure price quote industry analyst. He brings over 25 years of international experience in various organizations, helping drive a positive impact on sales. As a CPQ industry analyst and consultant with deep experience in a variety of industries, he's busy advising sales leaders in the areas of sales transformation, including CPQ optimization and quote to cash. Steve is Tacton Senior Vice President of North America, directly overseeing the sales organization responsible for all of Tacton's customer relationships in the region. He has 20 years of experience in enterprise technology, with about half of that being a specialized focus on CPQ and manufacturing. Welcome, Steve and Frank. I'm really looking forward to an engaging session with both of you. All right, so we'll start off the session with Frank laying out the business challenges faced by manufacturers, followed by some thoughts on the current digital landscape that manufacturers navigate for daily operation. We'll also discuss why configure price quote should stand out to business leaders as a central enterprise software for modern sales. This is the part where I'll be presenting. Then we'll have a Q&A session with Steve, and we'll also probably bring in Frank to have his thoughts on what Steve's insights are and understand the real issues that configure price quote can solve for manufacturing companies. So having said that, let me turn it over to Frank.
Hey everyone, very excited to be here. So as Sriram mentioned, right, so I have over 25 years of experience in this area, and the challenges, the business challenges that I frequently hear about from customers, especially in the manufacturing space, are four challenges basically, right? So, and the first one here is excessive reliance on manual business processes. And I think, Sriram, you're going to control the slides. Exactly, perfect. The second one is an inconsistent user experience across different sales channels. I tell you more what I mean by that in a minute, and I think you will agree. The third one is a slow transition from one-time sales to recurring business models. And fourth, as manufacturers are often ill-equipped to handle the anticipated surge in data volume, especially right now with the move towards artificial intelligence and ever more data, right? So now let's look in each and every one of these points in a little bit more detail. Let's start with the excessive reliance on manual business processes. The general challenge that I see is that companies first think of getting more work done by adding more people, right? So that's the case because it's historically the fastest and easiest way to get more work done. Fast because the budget for the additional headcount is usually not high and can be made available quickly, right? Easiest because business processes are already established and new people only need to learn what is already there and then just do it, right? So plus the results are usually relatively quick to see. So the first thing customers typically attempt to do when they get more work is to do it manually. As long as that works, that's obviously fine, right? But the challenge is that not all work steps are manually scalable. And so they have to look at automating business processes or work steps so that they can issue more quotes faster and with zero errors. By the way, the goal of issuing quotes faster is something which is critical for sales teams, right? And has been confirmed by a number of reports and studies from firms like Salesforce, Gartner, and McKinsey. And in all of these reports and studies, they state that the first quote considerably increases the chances that the quote will be accepted and converted to an order, right? So issuing quotes faster is a top goal. Now, if you want to do that across a number of different sales channels, then it doesn't work to just add more people. The first example here is pretty straightforward, and that's the online channel, right? So if you're online on a website, on a portal, on an app, that requires companies to look at their business process ahead of time to automate them, at least to a certain degree, right? So that they can have an online presence. Here, companies are forced to go away from the manual business process handling, at least to a certain degree, right? So to process automation. For sales teams and channel sales teams, it looks a little bit different. Here, the tendency is a bit higher to just increase manual process because it's easier and faster. At least it feels like it initially, right? So for example, if you have 1,000 potential customers you want to talk to, and you have 10 sales reps and you want to reach these potential customers in 2 weeks, the easiest thing to do would be to just hire more sales reps to talk to these potential customers within 2 weeks, right? But you have to consider that there are a whole lot of tasks where more sales reps will not speed up the process. Like, for example, a buyer requests a product on a quote where an engineer needs to verify if a requested component in a machine actually works. In any case, there are many more examples where manual processes are slowing down the sales process, and the best answer here is to automate your business process. So that's the first takeaway. Then let's go to the next slide, inconsistent user experience. UX is user experience, obviously, right? So generally, there are 3 ways how products and or services are sold. And the first one is already what I mentioned earlier via the sales team. Second is via partners like distributors and resellers. And the third option is to buy online. These different ways are also called sales channels, right? So plus we have to keep in mind that most buyers, including business buyers these days, first investigate products and services online before they talk to anyone in person. By the way, the investigation may or may not end up with a sale. In any case, the products and services need to be available online so that potential buyers can research them. Plus, buyers can switch at any time from one way of buying, like from online, to another way of buying, like talking to a sales rep. And this whole process is called the hybrid sales model. To make the buying experience as easy as possible for a buyer is the key to a great user experience. So what does that mean, right? So first, it means, for me anyway, that for a buyer, the information that's requested should use the same terminology and visual clues across all sales channels I just mentioned, right? So you have to recognize it. Second, the different sales channels require different user experience. Like, for example, an experienced sales rep should have a different guided selling experience compared to a novice. That's someone who is online, right? Or an occasional user who is a channel sales partner who is not selling your products every day. If a sales rep, he knows the company's products very well, since they got probably a product training when they joined your company. So when they use your CPQ solution, they are asked expert questions. Versus a casual or one-time user on the website may not know your product. And so they may need the most help, like they have a help button, right? So to get the better experience for them. On the other side, these users may not see the most complex options, right? So most B2C buyers will use more help online. And so when they are back at work in a B2B environment, they also expect to see a more helpful option. And third, it means that various capabilities need to be integrated. For example, if a buyer is configuring a product online, then they need to know if and when the components they are about to select are available, right? So the availability information. So it's important from a user experience point of view to have a tight integration so that the sales reps are not chasing information from various different systems. Then let's go ahead and let's talk about the third point, which is the transition of the business model. Point 3 is actually a big challenge for many companies, and especially a big challenge for manufacturing companies. That's true for manufacturers that produce high-value products, since the cost of these products cannot be easily transformed into a subscription, right? So, for example, think about the $500,000 machine and the investment necessary to produce it, and it's easy to see why this can't be easily transferred into a monthly $5,000 subscription without pushing all the risk to the manufacturers. So nevertheless, business models are changing and customer requests more options to buy from manufacturers. Here it is now important to note that subscriptions in general are not new, right? So just think about your paper subscription that you may have had 10, 15 years ago, right? But they are relatively new to industries like manufacturing. Just a short note concerning historic use of subscriptions. They have been largely used by software, utilities, telecom companies, tech companies, and for some time now, other companies see the benefits of using them as well, right? The opportunities that manufacturers see with subscriptions are that they can build an ongoing and better relationship with their customers instead of just selling them the product once and then maybe follow up at some point with an after-sales opportunity. Financially, this means that the relationship can earn manufacturers more money over the lifetime of the product than a one-time sale could, right? But it's more than that. For example, they can tailor subscriptions to the specific needs and preferences of a customer and offer them more flexibility and convenience. Plus, they allow manufacturers to gather valuable customer data and insights, which help them to further improve their products and service. For example, a machine manufacturer can sell a maintenance service to their customer to ensure the machine is maintained on time, and therewith increases the life expectancy of the machine. These advanced services can and are actually used to extend the product life and hence contribute also to sustainability requirements, which is another big challenge that's expected in the coming years. This means there are many changes happening right now, like the change for subscriptions, right? So, and there are various forms of subscriptions like the fixed price subscriptions, usage-based subscriptions, and so on, which put pressure on manufacturing executives to plan for these new revenue models. Relatively new, right? As an example, think about adding users to a subscription, extend the subscription, reduce the running time of subscription, and so on. On top of that, there will be more regulations to address climate change. All these changes can present significant disruptions to business and especially sales reps who are directly managing new customer requests. And now let's go to point number 4, the last point, and that is data and product complexity increases, right? And point 4 is actually about 2 points. First is the explosion of data, and second is the complexity of the product configuration requirements. Let's start with the explosion of data, right? I guess you probably have heard about artificial intelligence. There's no escaping it these days, right? So with ChatGPT and other large language models or Google Bard, these AI solutions have been trained on large amounts of data. And there is a ton of new data added each day, right? So I did a quick search this morning on Google, and it told me there are around 2.5 billion gigabytes of data added each day, right? So that's a gigantic amount of data, and there is no chance to manually look or process that data. Plus, keep in mind that the excitement about ChatGPT and similar tools has just started. And if everything stays as it is now, then there will be even more data pretty soon. By the way, in addition to these generic AI solutions I just mentioned, there are also CPQ-specific AI solutions and capabilities which are developed. And these solutions help with tasks like writing a personalized intro letter that accompanies the quote, or with making even more and better product and pricing suggestions, think cross and upsell scenarios and stuff like that. Now, second, let's look at the increased need to handle product complexity, right? So one key component here is that users in the different sales channels, so what I mentioned earlier, sales, channel partners, and online business transactions, all have their own user expectations. Meaning this goes from the need to do very complex product configurations to the need to simplify product configuration so that even someone new to the product can make selections, right? So, but product complexity is more than just giving different users different views at the same product. It also includes the capability to handle a large number of product or features, to be able to handle complex product structures, the ability to show configuration results quickly, and last but not least, to integrate with a variety of other solutions like ERP. Just to clarify my last couple of points a bit here, a large number of products or features could mean the customer has, I have an idea, 50,000 products or more and many thousands of features. An easy example for a more complex product structure could be a bike, right? Think of the bike as the level 0. The bike has a frame, which is a level 1, and underneath the frame, there's a wheel, which is level 2, and underneath the wheel, there are spokes and tires, and so on. So you get the idea. You could have multiple levels in a product like this. And complex products in general can have many different levels with many different options, and user expectation is typically to get the response back instantly, or as close to instantly as possible. In any case, to summarize, I'd say user expect more customization options for more complex products more often. And with that, I guess I already went over my time, but I pass it back to Sriram here.
Thank you, Frank. Let me get my camera back on here. Yeah, I mean, that was a comprehensive set of challenges that you laid out, and appreciate that those insights. So before we jump into what CPQ is and why it addresses many of the challenges you laid out, I'd like to show some of our research on top priorities for manufacturers in 2023 and beyond. Right. So we actually collected this data from over 200 respondents in manufacturing, approximately 75% that were at or above the managerial level. These responses were to multiple selection questions, and some of the key questions we asked were, what areas are your company's digital transformation initiatives are focused on? And 67% responded that sales was at the top area, followed by supply chain and product at 63%. Then we asked, which key investment initiatives do you consider most important during the current economic uncertainty? 64% said that supply chain optimization was most important, followed by 45% on digitalization and 40% on digital direct sales. Given that we have had continuous supply chain issues in manufacturing, this is not a big surprise being at the top, right? And then we asked them which strategic areas, which strategic areas do you consider most important to remain competitive? 59% focused on reducing costs, and there was an even split in increasing quality and revenue. Given that manufacturing has been contracting for some time now, especially in the last few quarters, focus on reducing operational costs while growing sales seems pretty logical. And lastly, we asked them, where do you see the future of manufacturing sales going, right? And in that, the respondents said 47% of them said it's going to be through direct sales, 35% through distribution, and 16% through partners. As can be seen from these results, the end goal for manufacturers in 2023 and beyond is in driving sales growth, either through optimizing their supply chains or directly transforming the sales organization. Right. But to address these priorities, right, executives typically turn to spending on optimizing or upgrading their ERP, PLM, MES systems, CRM systems, or warehouse management systems. Obviously, you can see on your screen there are a list of different systems listed there. These systems are definitely essential to businesses, but these are designed for optimizing operational, product, and account management aspects of a business. They are not designed to provide a holistic view of what a sales team or partner needs as part of their selling experience. Relying on these systems as a sales tool extension leads to inefficient selling. More importantly, these systems are designed to meet the buying needs of the new generation, are not designed, right, to meet the needs of the new generation of digital buyers that demand as much information about your products online upfront before even reaching out to your sales reps. So the modern CPQ systems commonly, used for configuration, pricing, and quoting are purpose-built to help manufacturers manage a buyer's journey from the time they are interested in a product to helping them make a purchasing decision with all the available product or service information. CPQ relieves the sales teams of chasing cards or product information that is located in disjointed systems and lets them focus on providing the most informed buying experience based on a prospect's application needs and converts opportunities to actual customers. Look, sales quoting is nothing new, but its importance to manufacturing, especially as a competitive advantage when you have complex product offerings, is starting to get noticed. For those who may be unfamiliar, Configure Price Quote tool in a nutshell has 3 parts to it. the configuration part, that is the capability to offer guided selling to sales and partner teams and helps with easy product and service configuration. This includes visualization tools like 3D visualization, engineering data, and any relevant product information. The pricing part handles pricing, margin, availability, and approval workflows at a high level. Lastly, the proposal generation part creates detailed documentation and terms to discuss with the customer. CPQ, if used correctly, should have all of product, customer, pricing, lead time, and design drawings information for sales team to quickly manage customer needs. Now that we've looked at the centrality of CPQ, let's look at how CPQ addresses the sales challenges that manufacturers are facing. Frank discussed how excessive dependence on manual business processes and inconsistent UX, changing business models, and product complexity is stifling growth in manufacturing. Right? To give you some hard data, we found from our customer research that due to some of these issues, 70% of quotes don't become orders. 30% of orders taken have errors in them, and there's significant loss in margins of 20% in order fulfillment and a 20% loss in revenue due to the slow time to volume. With the modern CPQ, businesses can eliminate any manual handovers since all relevant sales information is available in a single platform. Also, this information can be set up for all sales channels, including direct sales, any distribution partners, and even self-service for prospective customers to directly place a quote. Since the right CPQ bridges sales relevant data across a varied landscape and is agnostic to an ERP or CRM system, it provides a centralized user experience. Also the modern CPQ is SaaS-based with multiple tenancy, which helps with seamless and fast maintenance of the system. Other user experience advantages, such as 3D visualization of product portfolio, are key to differentiate against competition. It'll also support multiple revenue types, such as product sales, subscription sales, service offerings, etc. I think which Frank laid out earlier about the requirements in a modern CPQ, right? Making the buying process seamless for a prospect. Another key challenge is the changing and emerging business models, which Frank mentioned, right? So a modern CPQ is expected to handle new revenue models such as equipment as a service and sustainable configuration. With the acceleration and regulatory requirements, sustainable B2B product offerings are not a question of if they will be maintained, but a question of how soon, or will be mandated rather, not maintained. It's a question of how soon, right? And lastly, Frank mentioned about the increasing data and product complexity hitting manufacturers. The modern CPQ's technology, especially for high-level customization and solution selling, requires a robust platform. Right? There are several configuration algorithms available in the market for different industries that run behind us, at the back end of a CPQ. However, for manufacturing needs, constraint-based CPQs work best. Even in that, for handling product complexity of any size or configuration while maintaining a high performance level, a CPQ with dynamic constraint solver generally stands out. We're not going to go dive into the technical details on all the algorithms here as it is out of the scope of the webinar, but having a dynamic constraint solving engine significantly makes the backend administration and setup easy. And the key reason behind that is that the technology decouples the data from the logic needed for setting up the whole CPQ. So as you further explore CPQ, I'd like to share the technical considerations or technology considerations of the architecture when selecting a modern cloud-based CPQ. As you can see on the left here, a CPQ system integrates with the whole digital landscape from a CRM to a CAD system. And the whole purpose being to get the right information for the sales team, partners, and customers. You could ask, right, hey, you could just replace a CRM system in the center or something else, a PLM in the center, and all of them integrate with each other. But the key part to understand here is CPQ is the only system that is designed for helping the sales team provide all this consolidated information to the customer, right? So it's important that when you evaluate a platform, they consider multiple aspects to a CPQ. We just touched upon the importance of the right technology in handling complexity using dynamic constraint solving. It's also good to keep in mind that as your business grows, that you go with a single instance cloud-based architecture for future releases or managing future releases and automatic updates. especially for manufacturing, it would be vital to consider a native 3D visualization and CAD automation components as part of the CPQ solution so that it's built in, right? Lastly, as your organization expands and is going through digital transformation, it would be good to consider platform agnostic CPQs, as you need the flexibility to adapt to multiple ERPs, CRMs, PLMs, et cetera, which many of you might already be dealing with, that are common to global enterprises and growing organizations through mergers and acquisitions, et cetera. So I think I've shared quite a bit here. Hopefully, we have given you a good understanding of why CPQ is central to modern and effective selling and what you need to look for. Now, let's look at the benefits of enterprise CPQ and discuss some real examples of successes with our North American Senior Vice President for Sales, Steve Fauth. So Steve, what I'm showing here is actual data from manufacturers using Tacton CPQ and the benefits they have realized, such as 11% increase in the number of quotes and an 8% increase in win rate. But it would be good to hear some hard examples of the types of challenges that manufacturers have encountered and the positive change they have realized by deploying CPQ, and in your case, Tacton CPQ. So So let's start with, out of the challenges that Frank listed, you've heard him talk about 4 different ones. Is any one of the challenges more pressing to executives than the other? If so, which one and why?
Yeah, thanks, Asar. I hear all of them every day. But Frank's first point about the reliance on manual process is probably the most common. And that's not to say that there aren't degrees of automation that exist, but like true automation of the end-to-end process is still lacking in a number of the customer conversations that we have on a daily basis. The quote to cash process could be very expensive, very labor intensive when it's manual. That's especially true for complex configured products. Those complex configured products, though, they also happen to be the segment of the customer portfolio that they have the ability to charge the highest premiums for. So a lot of the manufacturing companies that we work with, they look at automation of this process as low-hanging fruit to impact margin in a really positive way. And you will see a major margin impact, actually, because of a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned around quote velocity improvements, quote volume increases, errors being eliminated, conversion rates going up. You could summarize all that just to say that, you'll see more wins, shorter sales processes, less people involved. You're selling, based on the optimal solution for the customer, and it's being sold at the optimal price. So it is a huge efficiency gain. And then there's another gain behind the margin when, the process is manual. A lot of the customers that we talk to, they struggle with having good insight into who's really required to support which sales situation. So a lot of manufacturers end up having very expensive engineering resources working on very low volume, low margin deals. You don't need engineers chasing remedial tasks or solving an issue that's been addressed, 100 times already. Through automation, you can empower the sellers and the buyers with technology. Only engage those expensive engineers in the truly complex, extreme high margin, difference maker type of engagements that you're driving. Those engineers are going to end up having more time available to focus on those large, complex engagements. You're going to see the conversion rate increase in terms of your wins there. And then they'll also have additional time available to support things like product development and innovation as a result in the portfolio.
Yeah, no, absolutely. From my personal experience of, when I started my career in engineering, I can fully understand the amount of time supporting sales organization and something like that, right? So, yeah. Thanks for that insight. So it'd be great for our audience, right, if we could talk about some actual situations where, some of these challenges were encountered by executives. I understand we won't be able to, may not be able to name actual customers, et cetera, but it'd be good if you can share some of these situations and, specific to a sector or application as well. Yeah,
I can say that they definitely exist across every segment of manufacturing. I haven't seen a noticeable difference in, one discussion in a subvertical, versus another. There's definitely a huge focus on improving margin and achieving profitability. These companies are trying to navigate through, what most people consider to be transformative times within the general manufacturing vertical. It's happening while we're experiencing volatile market conditions. You're seeing changing, buying behaviors that are unpredictable. All of these companies, they want to be agile. They want to be adaptable. They want the ability to see the trend, as Frank had mentioned, and capitalize on the trend to turn it into an opportunity, right? And execute it more effectively than their competition. If they're not prepared, though, they're going to struggle to meet even the current basic market expectations that are out there. When they're agile, then they do realize they have that opportunity to steal market share, but then the challenge becomes, how do you do it profitably and on a sustained basis? So as an example, Frank talked about this shift to as a service and the focus, to break away from that one-time CapEx driven sale that, the majority of manufacturers are experienced with. A lot of companies want to figure out how to monetize the life cycle of the products that they sell. And having the ability to sell that way versus the ability to do it profitably is actually a really big challenge. It's a solvable challenge, but it's a big one, and it's not easy. And we're working with multiple customers right now that they're trying to go through this for the first time. Their point of view is that it requires actually conditioning their customers in how to buy products on a subscription basis. For a lot of the customers that we're working with, they're testing this subscription model, doing exactly what Frank just mentioned. They're finding a pure subscription product, something like a complementary software, solution or a service contract, and they're taking it to market for the first time. Within that, though, they want the ability to quote that new subscription product in the same order with the traditional CapEx product. And in a lot of these cases, this is being done, I mentioned the buyer, this is being done with a team that's never sold anything other than a legacy CapEx product, for their entire career. And a lot of these sellers across the manufacturing industry are highly tenured. So you have someone who's never sold this way, selling to someone who's never bought this way. And this is why automation is so important. The systems that you leverage as a company in this transition will alleviate a significant part of the burden and pain that comes along with driving this type of change. Another quick example in our customer base is, we see a lot of our customers growing through acquisitions. And in a lot of cases, the goal with that strategy is that they want to pivot away from selling, single products and instead sell full solutions that are made up of complementary products that will deliver extra value to their customer. They want to do that because then they could differentiate and significantly increase the order sizes as a result. But if you're trying to do this manually, then you're going to end up with a full duplication of resources for every product that was introduced, through the acquisition. Frank talked about the number of people that get involved when things are manual. Automation is going to allow a seamless integration of the new products into the portfolio. And then you have things like guided selling that can be enabled so that the team members selling these new products, they don't need to be experts to do it well. So with an automated foundation in place, you could literally, like some of our customers, be quoting and selling those new products that came in through an acquisition on a single order, with a single team in under 90 days.
Okay. Oh, good stuff. Good examples there. I had talked about this earlier in the presentation about how executives are focused on when they're trying to address their priorities, and they're focused on upgrading the ERP or system, CRM system, which doesn't really have as significant an impact on the actual sales experience, selling experience, and getting the sales growth growing. What's your experience with how CPQ? I mean, I know you've touched on some points here, but how's it being central to selling, and if it helps springboard to address some of the key business challenges that we talked about earlier? Yeah.
So first of all, most CPQ engagements that we're in are not typically standalone. They influence some other technology related, initiative at the same time, and ERP and CRM are the two most common. I don't see any of them as exclusive to the other. And this topic is actually interesting to me because for some reason it seems that this consideration of how these applications come together is underappreciated by most organizations at the start of the initiatives that they're driving around ERP or CRM, whether it's putting a new system in or upgrading something that's existing. And actually a large number of the projects that we see, they're companies that are coming to us after having already started with an ERP or a CRM project. And then somewhere around the middle, point of that initiative, they find some major functional gap in the process that can't be delivered without CPQ. And it actually becomes a disaster scenario because those other projects that were active have to come to a grinding halt until they can evaluate, select, and catch up with CPQ. what they realize, CPQ has the ability to elevate and unlock a tremendous amount of additional value out of the other technology investments that are happening. So, for example, in ERP, the way an order is generated or a BOM is created, or even how the product is manufactured, or through CRM, how an option is quoted, or I talked about, the pivot towards selling solutions instead of products. How is a comprehensive solution configured, right? How is all the new information about the customer requests and the selections they make in terms of the options and variants that go into it? How's that data captured and fed back into the product organization so that they could spot trends in terms of the most frequently requested options that, maybe should be standard in the project? So there's absolutely tangible impact of CPQ in all these areas, whether it's ERP, CRM, or many other technology-related initiatives that are underway.
Okay. All right. And I want to ask you more of an operational question. And by the way, Frank, if you have any comments or counterpoints to any of the things that Steve mentioned, please feel free to jump in. But Steve, from an operational standpoint, if you're a new customer looking to implement a SaaS-based CPQ or transitioning to the second version of CPQ, how long does it normally take from an initial setup to actually having their sales teams go out and quote with a SaaS CPQ?
Yeah, I mean, with Tacton, you can expect roughly 12 to 14 weeks as an average from the start until the customer is able to quote at least the first product or set of products in CPQ. So it tends to go, much more rapidly than the traditional on-prem approach.
Gotcha. All right, thanks. And lastly, I was curious, we've mentioned a whole bunch of issues, and I think you laid out a few, but are there any additional points that we may not have covered that executives on the call might benefit from understanding that, how can CPQ actually help them?
Yeah, I think an interesting one, I mean, Frank kind of touched on it very briefly, and I'd be interested, Frank, to get your additional opinion beyond mine here. But the biggest one that I hear about is actually around sustainability. For the most part, it's viewed, at least currently, as more of a regulatory compliance type of driver. Obviously, there's government initiatives and funding available, to help drive initiatives that push the organization closer to sustainability related projects. But some companies can view it as a burden, others as an opportunity. And if you take sustainability as an example within regulatory compliance, all these manufacturing companies that we speak with, they're working to drive initiatives ahead of what they believe to be the upcoming regulations, even though they're not in place. They know that they're coming. They see what's happening in Europe, and so they're saying, what can we do to be ahead of this and not reactive to it? And what the early adopters are realizing is that the initiatives that they're driving, the end customers or consumers of their products, are actually focused on very similar sustainability related initiatives. And the data about the products from the manufacturer and their ESG impact is actually very valuable. So the customers of these manufacturing companies, they're asking for environmental impact data and sustainability information and ESG data actually as part of the quoting process already. And even in a lot of cases, the ability to provide that data is a prerequisite for that manufacturing company to even be considered for bidding. So, like I said, some of these manufacturing companies now, they're looking at ways to turn this into a competitive advantage, or they're looking for opportunities to optimize the design, production, or use of their products, to meet those upcoming regulatory objectives, and then provide that data either for their own internal initiatives or for their customers.
Okay. Frank, do you have any additional points on that or any of the other areas?
To add over here would be too much, but I had a recent thought leadership event where Tacton was also in one of your customers, right? So, and anyone who's interested in that, let me know about it, and I can give you the link so that you can watch the webinar, and then you can learn much more than I can say here in 15 seconds or so.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's all we'll have pretty much time for today. I just want to do a quick wrap up with for the audience here. Right. Thank you again, Frank and Steve, for giving your valuable insights. And if you are interested more about learning some of the examples that Steve mentioned of successes, you can go take a look at our website at tacton.com to hear about more customer testimonials. And if you have more questions for Frank and would like to reach out to him, you can do so at the information provided on the screen here at info@novuscpq.com. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you again, Frank and Steve.